Hey guys, this cold has been kicking my butt all day, so I think I'll review a couple comic books and hit the sack early. Get rid of this frog in my throat. All right, so first I'm looking at Doctor Star and the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows, written by Jeff Lemire, illustrated by Max Fiumara. I think I've seen Jeff Lemire's name before as an artist. I think on Animal Man, maybe, but this is actually my first encounter with Jeff Lemire. Uh, as a writer here, and this is apparently set in some kind of Black Hammer universe I've never heard of before. My immediate thought when I was starting it was, okay, this is kind of Watchmen-y, like a lot of guys want to do their take on the Watchmen or their version of the Watchmen, but only in the sense that it's about like some old golden age heroes who then have to deal with some like, tough real world problems like death. It's actually a lot more optimistic than Watchmen and a nice tighter read than Watchmen, and I found it heartwarming. Some of the inspirations are kind of obvious, like there's obviously a Hawkman knockoff, there's obviously a Punisher knockoff. I think Doctor Star is supposed to be an homage to a 90s hero called Starman or something. And there's like a really obvious Green Lantern Corps homage. But the emotion of the story and the kind of like exaggerated, slightly cartoony art uh, really serves the story well because it's a human story about dealing with death and dealing with grief and your own errors. I think kind of like exaggerating him and making him look weaker and more tired as an old man was a really good vehicle towards that end. So that's a spoiler-free review. Spoilers for everything. Now I'm just gonna flip through it. So, uh, da da da. It was really good, and I highly recommend it. Uh, yeah, so I'm not going to rehash all that. I actually want to jump ahead and just look at some of the designs that went into it. It's so good, it's hard to review. So I think their initial idea was red and green, and they changed that to blue and green to be a little bit safer on copyright grounds. Writes Jeff Lemire. Well, obviously Jimmy Robinson is based on James Robinson, a friend and the writer of many comics, including the sublime Starman run of the 90s at DC. I love Starman so much, and Doc Star is my heartfelt love letter to that series and to James. Max did an incredible job of making Jimmy look like James, but also making him his own character as well. Max. Dr. Star's original design was created by Dave Rubin, and I added my own take on it. I was interested in making something special with the costume shapes, something more notorious. And you can kind of see how like there's even like a star motif in his collar. I kind of dig that. I also added some more sciencey features to the costume, like making the goggles look like a pair of tiny telescopic lenses. Nice, like figuring out, you can kind of see how he's playing with exaggerating the facial features to make him look like a more tired old man. But I like that the superhero design also has kind of like a quirky and memorable look to it. And now here he is experimenting with styles from like more cartoony to more realistic. Jeff, I love those goggles. I worked with a lot of artists in my career, but I can honestly say that few have thrilled me as much as Max. I've admired Max's work for a long time and was excited to work with him, but I couldn't have anticipated just how amazing the experience would be. Max's storytelling style is so in line with my own that he was able to deliver emotion on the page exactly like the pictures in my head. Max writes, I did these preliminary drawings of Doc looking for the most interesting way to draw him, testing a realistic approach or something cartoony. I was trying to find a good fit for him. So what's interesting to me is, kind of like that how to draw comics the Marvel way of building up your pencils, being loose, drawing on your lines over and over and over again to get a general shape for the character, and then trying a few different approaches to one character. Max. With Jimmy's design, I thought he needed to look older than he really was, and also sad and dejected. So I made him wear clothes that would look like what he would wear from his past life. Joan, his wife, Joan is my favorite character. I wanted to make her strong at the beginning of the series, but not so much at the end. She has to go through a lot of awful stuff in her life, so she needed to look tough, but also to have that look in her eyes that something is not right because of her husband. I actually noticed how, like, in this drawing you can see it, he really exaggerates the eyes, kind of like departs from reality, but it lets him maybe push the characters a lot more so they can look tough, but then they can look really weak when he, like, gives them a skinnier neck, gives them a little bit more hunching posture. It's a great fit of style to tone of the story. Jeff, I was worried that Max wouldn't want to draw the 1940s New York that the script called for, but was pleasantly surprised when he told me that this was his favorite era of American history. He really excelled at creating real characters and having them page after page in a realistic way. Then they show a lot of like concept and development art. I like how the character has to like bust his chops just to make one scientific discovery. By the way, he doesn't magically have knowledge of all scientific areas just because he busts his hump just to make the one big discovery that makes him a superhero. So they talk about, like the process of refining things. Jeff offers a lot of praise to his artist Max. I really love seeing like just the gap between like the simple, sketchy style in the thumbnails towards the more polished style in the end. They joke about how they identify with the grumpy old superheroes, talking about the good old days. Concept to execution, so simple, quick sketch down of ideas, maybe a bit more refined in the blue pencil to try to get the things a little bit tighter to inks. Dig it. There might be some spoilers in here, by the way. All right, and then the covers are by Declan Shalvey and Jordi Belair. One by Jeff Lemire. So I knew he was an artist. I think it's Animal Man. Tag me if you know any other good comics that Jeff Lemire's been an artist on, and I'll check them out. Painterly Style by J.G. Jones. Dustin Ewan. I think I saw Dustin Ewan do a comic I just read recently. And Annie Wu. Nice. All right. Very fun. High recommendation. It's not just a Watchmen knockoff. It's definitely its own thing. And it's actually a lot more hopeful than Watchmen in its own way. All right. Quick touch base on the manga I've been speed reading. Every issue of Case Closed is the same. They're perfect manga. Hey, kids with parental guidance. Mysteries. There was an interesting little Japanese cultural moment where they talk about the Kiri Tengu, this wind ogre or wind demon that could pick you up and carry you away like a tornado, and then that factors into a mystery where the killer figures out a way to imitate what the Kiri Tengu does by defying gravity. And I like it. Like some of the mysteries, like it's a little tough, like I don't know what shogi is, I can't solve a mystery based on shogi, but then there are other mysteries where they give you enough clues that you could piece it together, and I really dig that. Anonymous Noise, one of my favorite series of the year. I'm kind of getting into the phase where it's like, yep, I've said kind of like all the good things about it. Really good comedy writing, really fun rock and roll scenes, great, character-based comedy where the characters are bouncing off each other. My boy Haru Yoshi, the most feminine male character ever, and yet the most manly character at the same time. In this volume, Ryoko Fukuyama announced that she got an anime series, and I think it was her first anime series, so I was super happy for her. I just highlighted a few like fun quotable. There are a lot of memeable moments in this series. Are my boob pads too small? Nope, I'm a normal boob guy, not a big boob guy. And then the rock and roll scene. So my absolute favorite volume from the series is volume 5 because it's just this really hectic rock and roll concert where everything goes wrong and they're like knocking over props and scenery. To me, that was just a blast. It made me feel like I was at a rock and roll concert. And she's kept up this motif of always building towards a big rock show where something happens. And actually, now that she's having the characters kind of find their voice, literally, and figure out how to put on a good rock and roll show, it's now like not a disaster. Now they're like putting on genuine hardcore rock and roll shows. And I really dig the art of that. I also like, it's kind of like a similar thing we saw in the Dr. Star book is in the sketchy preliminary work, lots of quicker lines, a lot more emphasis on the motion. Actually, the whole composition changed. It was originally going to be these 3 guys, and then it changed to just Momo at the end. Let's see here. Another quotable moment. My boy Hariyoshi is making his move, doing his A game, and Miyu responds, "Do not push your luck with me, you femi perv." It's all character based. Once you understand the character, you can kind of do endless gags with them as long as they're behaving in character. Like I love that Nino, her character is cute girl with like a very mannish fixation on what she wants, and this is actually a genuine flaw. She has a hard time listening to people or paying attention to anyone else's needs other than her own because she's hyper fixated on her goal. And then she'll do something stupid like put the mask on her eyes instead of her face, because when she's like hyper fixated on becoming a great singer, she forgets dumb things around her. I think Yuzu has the comment that she's the most masculine girl I've ever met, and yet she's still so cute. And I just the big point, I like looking at these because it kind of makes the point that manga artists really build their persona. They really try to you can't answer every letter, but they try to form a connection with their readers because they understand that if the readers like you, they're rooting for you to succeed and like they're happier supporting your product. The joy of working with so many people to create anonymous noise is something that I expect will remain with me for the rest of my life. To you, my dear readers, who have given me this opportunity, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so happy for her. I think I marked a couple other interesting moments. All right, so something that I appreciate about these 2 volumes is they're actually building. So I've been kind of like in this phase where I'm saying, all right, are we building to something? Are we going to be in a love triangle forever? And this volume proves that Ryoko Fukuyama knows exactly what she is doing. She's an industry pro. She knows how to like stretch it out to kind of like have some fun and have some laughs about the love triangle, but give you enough so that it actually develops and you're going in a direction. You're not just floating around in the status quo forever. So one of Yuzu's problems has been that he kind of has like debilitating fear and he's afraid to admit his love. And these volumes establish that he actually has a really good reason for that. His upbringing, kind of his abusive, crazy upbringing, has made him really hesitant to seize the thing that he knows he wants. So he's always trying to go about it an indirect way. And he literally finds his voice. So he's kind of had a psychological problem where he hasn't been able to sing. Somehow he's able to break through it kind of in the heat of the moment because the message that they're sending is when you're fully emotionally attached to your art or your music, it reaches something within you that you probably just can't reach through normal routes. The music or the art means something to you that you sort of dig out of yourself, and this completes you as a person for a passionate, committed artist. Alice has... what's her name? Arisugawa. Nino Arisugawa. So her nickname is Alice. She has some more like quotable moments. It's fine. I just want something inside me, and I want it now. I'm starving. That's maybe not the best way to phrase that. You gotta read this. I dig Alice so much. Jumping ahead. Come, Yuzu. I will take all of you right now. These aren't tears. My heart's sweating. You gotta read it. If you aren't getting it, you just gotta read it. Maybe you just have to be there. My boy Haruyoshi. How can he be so flamboyantly effeminate and yet be quiet now? I'm kissing you. You go for it, Haruyoshi. Jumping ahead. Okay. This is the panel where I put 2 and 2 together and I realized Ryoko knows exactly what she's doing. So Haruyoshi jokes, I've broken out of my love triangle. You can too. She knows what she's doing. She knows she's stringing along a love triangle, and the comedy is what's holding it all together as she actually builds her characters. Okay, more costume designs. A's costume design. You've probably already forgotten, but Black Kitty's vocalist is called A. A's current costume is the most time-consuming design I've ever come up with, and every time I draw her, I ask myself, what possessed me to choose it, lol? I wonder what sort of costume I should give her next. I drew the station for the title page of Chapter 56. I was curious to see what it would look like to have Momo standing there in this station. Oh, Hase Station. And she also based some of the clubs off of like real Japanese like rock concert clubs. So I love that it's got an actual tie to her local geography. I ran down to Goku Rakuji Temple just so I could draw it for this scene. I'm sure I must have looked incredibly suspicious photographing every corner of the empty Goku Rakuji station, but I'm glad I did. My assistant did an amazing job putting the finishing touches on this. Gather reference material from your local area to build your world. The Goryo Shrine near those stations, the Hase Station is one of my favorite places. I really need to go there for New Year's one of these years. The lanterns look so beautiful in the pictures I've seen. If you ever have a chance, you should pay it a visit. That's enough for now. See you in Volume 2. Bye-bye. I love her so much. And okay, some of her like little pencil sketches almost on line. Okay, that's shading. So it looked like line paper, but it's actually just really light shading to indicate that. The next volume concludes the tour arc that began in Volume 9. After that, it's finally time for a new arc and some new characters. That's the plan anyway. I hope to see you in the future. Ryoko Fukuyama. You can follow her on Twitter. All right, one of my favorite series of the year. Case closed, always perfect. And Dr. Star, a highest recommendation. Wow, I've just read a lot of good comics today while I was sick. I'm going to bed. Love you guys. Catch you later.